We should be live now.
It's nice to see you, Charlie.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you could make it, so we do at least have a quorum today, and we should have one more coming. But Lisa, if you would, call the roll, please.
Okay, Eric King, he is not here. Courtney Kennedy, she is not here. Mike Mason,
Here.
Dennis Moore,
Here.
Harold Clendenin.
Here.
All right.
All right. I know this is a short extra one that we got put in, but Lieutenant Cooper, if you would like to start us off.
I will. I appreciate you allowing me to sneak in on the special meeting. As you know, on February 3rd, the last meeting we had, the total number of applicants on the certified list is 15. Applicant number 2 was given a conditional offer of employment. Applicant number 10, his test expired on the 4th, which is the day after our last civil service meeting. And applicant number 13, we're requesting disqualification based on his background investigation. After removing these 3 applicants, there will be 12 applicants on the certified list.
All right. Any questions on any of that? Would someone like to make a motion to accept the list?
Move to accept the list as presented.
I second.
Motion and a second to approve the list as presented. Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, that motion has passed.
All right, I thank you, gentlemen, and we are continuing to conduct interviews. They'll be going next week. And probably, I believe I got 6 scheduled, and we'll probably try to get the rest of them done, so I will need a meeting on the 1st of March, so.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, again, thanks for having me. I was here last week to talk to you a little bit about the promotional exam process. On Monday, if you remember, we did have a sergeant's exam. We had 31 officers show up. Actually, 30 ended up staying. One had to leave and missed the second part of the test, so they will be last on here. And on Tuesday, we had the lieutenants and majors exam. We had 6 lieutenants that tested for major, 14 lieutenants, our sergeants test for lieutenant, and then the 31 officers that promoted or tested for sergeant. And so I brought, here's the list here. And so right now, these are unofficial until you guys feel that the information that we've collected and the test is sufficient to go ahead and certify them. At that point in time, Chief Harris can conduct interviews with some of the top candidates, so he can make his decision on who'll get promoted. Again, we are under the rule of 3. He will only be allowed to promote somebody in the top 3. When he makes a promotion, everybody below that will, move up 1. So.
All right, Major, thank you.
And the scores you see there are the first 2 categories. The front line you'll see is one is a score from, they spent an hour watching different video scenarios and answering questions from that. The second front line score that you see there took about 2 hours. It was almost 200 questions. And it was also different scenarios, tasks that a supervisor would do for that rank. And they answered good questions. And then the third score is a combination of both. And then you'll see a custom score there. That is the test, a smaller, much smaller section, 50 questions over the directives and the Arkansas Rules of Criminal Procedure. And then together, they get a weighted score, that very last score there, which is 30% of the overall score comes from the custom, 70% comes from the video scenarios.
So the rating comes off the these
The
weighted
rating
totals?
off the weighted total, so that
Okay.
last column will dictate the order in which they are ranked.
Hello, sir.
And the testing company, the answer sheets were emailed to the testing company, and the testing company did all the scoring for us in the ranking.
Okay. Okay, let Eric take a look at
And
those.
there were no ties this time. There were every score, if you'll give this to Mr. King there, all the scores were unique, no ties.
It's always good, and it kind of. All right, has everyone, we had a chance to look at that?
Can I ask what, sorry for being late, but what are we supposed to do? Just verify it or?
Just approve the list, yeah, as it's presented, so.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have, any questions on any of that? We have a motion and a second.
Make a motion that we approve the lieutenants, the sergeant, and the majors list as it is.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that passed. And is anything else, Major?
No, sir, I think that's it. I appreciate your time. I'm not sure that I'll have any more business anytime in the near future, but nice to meet you, and I appreciate you letting me visit with you.
All right, thank you very much.
Was the chief gonna come over and,
No, he has been called to do something else,
Okay.
but I think his questions will be addressed shortly. Were you going to?
I talked to Charles a little bit about it.
Oh, okay.
I do have one question. How soon are the promotions gonna take place?
How soon? Well, Chief Harris is not one to wait around. So now we do have several new hires to interview, and so he should be scheduling interviews. He will be conducting the interview himself. So he should start conducting those interviews. I would suspect next week. He has not given me a date yet. I will not be in the scheduling of that. That will be completely up to him. I would imagine he will start the interviews next week. But, we're talking, there's a minimum of 9 interviews he's going to have to do, and probably closer to 10 or 11 interviews. So that is the best answer that I can give you right now.
When he does those interviews, does he take just the top 3 to interview them, or?
I'm not sure how he's going to conduct it. If there were 3 positions available, then he could interview the top 5. Just to save some time. But I said, I do not know how fast he's going to promote and exactly when he's going to start. But again, he's one to get things done very quickly, and so that we can continue the momentum that we have built right now.
And I might have missed it earlier, but how many sergeant positions you have?
Right now, we have 3. We are depending on how plans go this year. I believe we could have 5, and then with the potential for retirements, there could be as many as 8.
But then you pull some of those lieutenants as well. I mean,
Well, you have 2 of the 3 majors right now can retire today. You have 3 or 4 lieutenants who could retire, if not today, within this year. And I'm not aware of any sergeants. There may be 1 or 2. I can think of at least 1 now. So there could be a lot of movement in the next year, just depending on the retirements and any other factor that we cannot foresee right now.
okay.
So in your rank structure, you don't have a captain?
No, sir. It's a police officer, sergeant, lieutenant, major, assistant chief, and the chief.
Yeah, I think the fire department, they do have captains.
We did have captains many, many years ago, and I know y'all were here to remember, Randall Aragon changed the title from captain to major.
That's been the trend across the country though. They did the same thing in Little Rock right before I left. They know the more captains are on majors, so that's been a trend throughout to change them from captains to majors in the police department.
All right, is there any other business?
Yes, sir, to discuss, and that's why Charles is here. Promotional exam for the police department, for the rank of assistant chief. At the fire department, it's a little different. The assistant chief is actually a division chief. There's not one assistant chief, he has 3 assistant chiefs or 4 assistant chiefs, so it's a little different scenario. At the police department, it is a separate rank. It's a higher rank, and at this time, there are only 3 people eligible to promote to assistant chief.
Assistant chief.
So our question is, which we discussed with Charles, and what the chief wants to know, does he really have to give a promotional exam for this, since there's no,
Only 3.
there's no failing score. There's gonna be 3 on the list. If all 3 want to be considered, there might only be 2 on the list, there might only be 1 on the list, depending on, how many wanna be considered for the position. So does he really have to go to the expense of a written examination, since there's only 3 people eligible to take it?
Well, it follows then that those 3 are qualified for the position already
Right,
by default to
Right.
get to the position they're at now.
right.
Makes sense.
They meet the criteria to test for that position, but there's only 3 of them. And the civil service.
The only thing that I would question is that opens the door for further down the road when this presents itself again. What do we do then?
Whether we wanna give a test or not.
Mm-hmm.
What does the city attorney have to give you an opinion on that?
Yes, sir, he's right behind you.
See you sneak in there. What do you think?
And just Jill. So, if you look at chapter 4 of the promotions section of the Civil Service Commission, it establishes the promotion procedure guidelines. The commission has directed the Director of Human Resources to develop the testing process, and that may, but is not required to include written examinations, oral interviews, or practical examinations. Can consider length of service, efficiency ratings, education or vocational qualifications, but none of those are mandatory. So it leaves the discretion to the Human Resources Director. My understanding is that there is no requirement the Human Resources Director that written examinations must be given regardless or at any time. So it's an optional anyway. If the rules required a written examination, regardless of the number of applicants, I think the police department and the fire department we have to follow that rule, but there is no such rule. Because there is no such rule, there would be nothing to prevent not testing applicants for promotion, particularly when there's only 3. This testing wouldn't affect the number of persons on the list. Now, promotions still follow the rule of 3 rule, but in this particular case, as I understand it, there is only 3 to start with. So as long as they met the other criteria, whatever was established by the commission and the Human Resources Director, they would be eligible to be placed on the list.
After Dennis bringing up what he brought up, do you think we need something in the bylaws?
No, I think it's a good point, but I don't think we need anything. I don't see a need to change the commission's rules, at least as far as promotion, because to me it seems pretty clear. Y'all can direct the Human Resources Director to direct those guidelines, which is what you've done. And the way they're written now, even if there weren't 3, it wouldn't have to be an examination, a written examination, unless it was required by rule, and it's not right now. So.
And I think what Dennis brought up was a good point, but I think also that we can look at it to where, since it's not a rule, we can vote on it just like we're doing right now. If this comes up again in the next go-around, we'll have that opportunity. Is that not correct?
The commission could, if it amounted to a rule change, we would have to do a public notice. anytime the commission amends the rule. So if the commission were to change that rule, the present rule,
Oh, no, I'm not talking about changing, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that, I think Dennis brought the way I understood his point was that, what do we do? Are we setting a precedence to what happens the next go around if we're in this same boat? You know, do we give a test or do we not? I think that still gets brought back to us as a commission and we make that decision then instead of changing any rules. We can make it on a base by base, case by
I
case.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to though, because of the way the commission has set up its rules, y'all have delegated that responsibility to the human resources.
Oh, okay.
So it's not something that the commission would have to, as far as whether or not to give a written examination, in my view, that's already built into the rules.
Right, we follow the promotional guidelines set by the respective departments, fire and police department, and there's certain criteria they have to meet within the department to test. And then we have, many, many years ago, we decided to go to an outside testing source to get, to purchase the test.
All right.
So do we need them?
Charles, do we really need a motion, or do we just
No, the
say
existing-
discussion, we just had a discussion about it?
Yeah, I thought you were just raising that issue to
Yeah.
make the commission aware, keep
Okay.
the commission in the loop about what's going on. But yeah, in my opinion, it's already been taken care of by the way the rules are written.
It's several $1,000s for a promotional
Testing.
test. And it doesn't,
I was just thinking in terms of setting the precedent, being, you know, the fastest growing city in the state, that we're gonna grow to where we're gonna need more chiefs, and we're gonna need more firemen and more police. And so there's potential that we could cross that road again, when we have to decide, do we test or do we not?
right.
Well, by taking no action, we're really not setting a precedent or changing a precedent, so no harm, no foul at this point. Sleeping dog,
Something does
so
come
to
up where we
speak.
got 15 that
Yeah.
qualifiers.
Cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, and I can give you an example, just if you compare the promotion guidelines that the commission has set with the initial employment guidelines that the commission has set by rules. For example, one of the things that an applicant for new employment would have to do is complete a physical agility test. So that's specifically written in the commission's rules, that can't be waived by the human resources director or anybody else, regardless of the number of applicants. So if it was one applicant, they would still have to do all of these, even if you had less than 3, if that makes sense. Because the commission has been very specific when it comes to initial employment requirements. And that includes, you know, being a high school graduate, for example, and the citizenship and age requirements, those couldn't be waived because those are specific. So that's an example. The physical agility test is an example of a test that y'all have been very specific. This has to be done regardless of the number of applicants.
All right. Any other questions on any of that? Any other business?
Sir, we will plan on a March meeting, the first
Yes, ma'am.
Monday in March.
Okay. Good.
11 o'clock.
Yes, the usual time,
All right, do we have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Make a motion that we,
Second.
adjourn this meeting.
All
I think
those
you got
in
edged
favor?
out.
It's all cool when you do that.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right. Thank y'all
Thank
for
you all.
coming today.
Lisa?
Let me turn it off.
Good,
Is that red?
I didn't remember.
Red and green.